Record.
Here we go. Turn it here. Okay, cool. You guys can all see that? Cool. All right. So let's see. Oh, I'm a little late. Sorry about that. I didn't realize we have a big group just heading out, so I hope they don't come through here. Let me shut the door. Bye. See you next time. Actually, I won't see you for 4 weeks. I'm going out of town and go to Germany.
I've been to Germany. Where are you
Yes,
going to go?
we'll talk later.
Where are you going to go?
Munich and some other places. See you later. We'll talk. Okay, here I am. All right, check it out. This is just informational, so I'm going to give you guys some information, and I had to narrow it down because it's a lot, and so I think I renamed it Part 1 because there's so much information. So I'm not sure if I don't know everyone here, so I don't know if you're like mostly Montessori with some behavioral interest, or if you're behavior analysts or RBTs or anything else. You're all welcome here. There's no like exclusion, but it just depends because the information might be really overwhelming depending on where. So if you have, and then at the end we'll have a bunch of questions and answers in case I don't get to anything, then we'll try to get to them at the end. So let me see if I can navigate. Okay, yeah, we're being recorded, and you will receive the recording afterward. I don't know how long it takes, but probably not long. And then information, it's my own information, so whatever I say, I don't want the other organizations to think that I'm representing them because they might disagree with what I'm saying. Except for where I work, which is my place is Tier 3 Montessori, and I totally 100%, that's not, I can't blame anyone for that. So let's see, it's all me. There's the task list links. I guess I can put them in the chat if you guys want to. You don't really have to follow along, but they're just there. And I'll send the PDF to you as well in case I think they go through with the PDF. But yeah, because those links, if you have them handy, that's great. It just kind of talks about what we're talking about. And then breathe. I'm also a yoga teacher, registered yoga teacher. I don't really teach actively now, but I always start things, social groups, everything with 3 deep breaths. Try to start the mornings with 3 deep breaths. So go ahead, and it's been a long day. I know it's the end of the day, but take a deep breath. You can close your eyes if you'd like, or keep them open. Exhale it all out completely. And second, try to make a deeper breath. And then exhale that all out. And third breath, try to make it the deepest breath of the day so far. And you can sigh it out or let it out. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling a little focused, a little more centered. I love deep breaths. And so something we do in Montessori is do a land acknowledgement. And for us here in Round Rock, we have the Tonkawa tribe they're still here. They've been here from early as 8,000 BC, and they're not still here in Round Rock, but they're still in excuse my voice, in Oklahoma. So I think that's awesome that a group of people have survived all these years and have stewarded this land. So when I drive into work, I like to just think of like all the history that came before us. And then if you would like to see your land, this is a great place for you. This link is awesome because these maps, I took a screenshot so you could see, you can turn the globe kind of like anywhere, and they kind of estimated who lived there before us. It's cool. It's awesome. So like Australia, Africa, South America. Anyway, I like that kind of thing. And that's really aligned with Montessori, because even though we do behavior, Montessori is really about kind of the history and the thread of humans. So let's see, next. Oops. So my perspective is sorry. My perspective from day one, for some reason, I entered this life and I have intersectionalities. I don't have like one straight, easy, simple viewpoint. It was kind of like a curse as a child, but maybe I'm turning it into like my strength because there's no other way for me. I just can't see beyond the middle. So I am neurodivergent, cis female. I'm middle aged now. I'm half Hispanic. I'm 23% unidentified, unclaimed Native American, but I'll get to why that's important later. I am English speaking. I'm white woman. I'm from the Sonoran Desert Valley in Arizona. I'm daughter, cousin, all these things. You too have all these perspectives in your life and they intersect in different ways. I'm not sure, you know, what people are, what their perspectives are when we meet, but we just have to respect them all, just like with our children. So my own teaching journey began 40 plus years ago as a student. I worked really hard as a student to I made promises to myself and to grow up to be a certain kind of an adult and to direct my neuro so I won't get into all the details, but yeah, it was a direct result of my neurodivergence as a student in school. And so now I'm like raging child-centered, all about empowering children. I'm all about values-based and trauma-assumed, trauma-informed, trauma-responsive. So when all this assent-based behavior stuff started coming out, like I'm just consuming all of that. I'm just taking every course I can, reading every book I can. Montessori is also aligned with all that. So it's this is it. I'm like loving every minute of all this learning. So I'm here to help try to share that. So let's see, let's do, I'm not gonna read all these, don't worry, but there are some links in here if you wanna check it out. These are some of the trainings I've had, not all of them. Yoga is a huge part of my life. I'm, from Arizona, so I went to ASU. I did my master's through there. I did some other things. So if you want to talk to me about any of that, I can help with that. Montessori stuff, a lot of different things there. And this is how the behavioral part ties into it. If you are currently working in a Montessori school, you might want to check out the National Center for Montessori in the Public Sector, NCMPS, and you might want to check out Public Montessori in Action. Those are two websites or organizations who are they are Montessori based, but they're kind of using behavioral strategies. So that is the entry point of where if you're working in a Montessori school, and we'll get to it later about kind of the culture of Montessori, that is a great starting point. So if you want to like brush up on your language there, those are two great places. I also do a lot of ACT matrix kind of stuff. ACT, I love ACT. Anyway, all this other stuff. Okay, so there you have a perspective. You've probably seen this one before. It's pretty popular that, there's an elephant, the story of everyone's holding a different part of the elephant and they're all describing a different part. And then we also can apply that to our work. So if you're working in schools or with families and they have a different point of view, we're all going to have a different perspective. And this is where the intersectionalities part comes through. So my whole life I was feeling like I had a war in there, like inside of like my perspective. And so now as an adult, and I'm not saying everyone has this, you might not have this, but you can see through the different perspectives that you have. And then that's what happened when I started studying Montessori and ABA. I couldn't do just one. I can't to this day pick just one. So I have to do both. So here it is with the child. Notice when we apply this to an actual child instead of an elephant, we notice like it's not helpful. We all need to work together to be interdisciplinary to help this child. So it's really important to not be so divided. This is the ACT matrix. We won't really get, I mean, we can do a part 2 later and do the ACT matrix through that, but it's really helpful to find your values and to just have a practice daily of like really noticing where you are and your actions. So, and then the social ACT matrix is kind of how we act as a group, like our focus value values as a group. So like, for example, today we're all together because we're trying to learn more about ABA and Montessori. So that's our group, our shared purpose, at least for this moment. So I'll start with a brief description of Montessori education. It's so brief. This is the briefest description in history. There's too much to talk about. She was an Italian physician. She was Italian, and she became a doctor, and her lifespan was from the late 1800s through the mid 80s or mid 1900s. I'm so sorry. She extended the work of Doctors Edward Seguin, father of special education, and Jean-Marc Gaspard Itard. I'm sorry if I don't speak French, but he was the one who did the Wild Boy of the what did they call it? The Savage Boy, the Wild Boy. So I put the link here if you ever want to go back and watch it. I don't know what would happen if I press it, but yeah. So there's like a whole movie if you ever want to go back and watch it. Now let's see if I can get back to where I was without losing my spot. There. And so I recommend it because it's behavioral and Montessori. It's so cool. I will geek out if I talk about it right now, so I'm just not going to, but I have a whole like lesson, a course, like a mini course just on the movie because I went through and watched. This is embarrassing that I'm even saying this. I went because I was trying to add it to my onboarding, but I don't do it anymore. But my first onboarding, that was part of our work is to look at the movie, and we went piece by piece to look at like, oh, that's ABA and that's Montessori, and it was super cool. But I think it was a little too much for the team. So anyway. There you can see it's a picture from the movie. He's using the movable alphabet, the movable wooden letters, which nowadays is not a big deal. Like we don't think anything of it. But back then that was a huge deal because they hadn't done that before. That's why he's the father of special education, because here's this child who couldn't speak and he was too old. He was past the sensitive period for language, and he was trying to teach him the word for milk. In French, this is the word for milk. And he was trying to have him manned for it. You request, if you're not a behaviorist, manding just means request. So he's requesting milk, but he was having him spell it out. So this goes further. It's not just manding, it's also a relational, a derived relation, like relational frame theory. He's got the written word milk for lay, for milk. He's got the spoken word milk, and he repeats it in the movie several times in order to get the boy to repeat. And then so that's the vocal, the auditory, the vocal, the written word text, and the actual milk, the drink. So it's kind of a beautiful moment in the movie, but again, I'm just geeking out right now. So, there's more. So I highly recommend it. It's kind of boring if you start watching it and other people are in the room. They're just kind of like thinking, what are you watching? Like this is weird, but it's cool. Montessori guides are okay. So Montessori is a constructivist approach. It's built upon the scientific foundation of observation, and the guides, the teachers in the Montessori classrooms, if you're not familiar, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Montessori, but they are trained to take objective scientific observations. This is because of Dr. Montessori's scientific training. She wanted to put that into the classroom. I realized I cut the page number off. So you can look up this stuff in one of her books called Advanced Montessori Method. Let's see. And then here are some more books for reference. And I really like The Best Weapon for Peace. I've just read that recently, but one of the big ones I've started out on my journey many years ago, 10, 20 plus years ago, was this Montessori, The Science Behind the Genius. It's a little bit frustrating though for us as behavior people because you start reading through it, and there's not much experimental research. It's a lot of research, but it's social sciences. It's a lot of surveys and a lot of, it's not our kind of single subject research design. And it's a little watered down compared to what we're used to. And so I began studying ABA because of, I want some real traction here in the science. Here's one, whose Montessori do you practice? That sounds a little incendiary when I first heard that article. Like, oh, what is that supposed to mean? That's rude. That's not nice. And she was one of my trainers, Phyllis Potash Lewis. She's awesome. I love her so much. Everyone does. She's so cool. But it's actually a really good book. And so it's not. I don't know why it's titled like that. It sounds abrasive, but it works it's aligned with our behavioral methods as well, individualized to the child. There's no canned curriculum. And the other book, The Child is the Teacher, that it's been a while since I've read that, but I remembered it was a good one. Has a lot of history if you like to read. It's not super scientific, but it's interesting. For Montessori from a behavioral science perspective, there is a lot of behavior in Montessori. It's so cool. If you have ever been in a classroom or want to just observe somewhere, if they let us, which I'll get to that later because it's hard for us to get in sometimes, the 3-period lesson is fully straight up relational frames theory. It's like straight up behavior. It's so cool. Economy of language, conservation of language. I'll talk about that in a little bit. That's straight out of verbal behavior from B.F. Skinner. He talks about simplicity of, I won't get ahead of myself because there's like a quote in one of the books, probably a lot of quotes. It's such dense reading that if you've ever read it, great, you're amazing. But he talks about the stuff that they were doing in Montessori, like at the same time, but in a parallel universe. Expansion of vocabulary, right? How to expand in Montessori, we just kind of grow the vocabulary. Control of error is a big one. There's auto education we talk about in Montessori, but we have behavioral terms as well for that. And then the concept of repetition also in verbal behavior and ABA, and the concept of isolation. So isolating one skill, one concept. And then behavioral science, why we sometimes need more supports than that of self-construction can provide. So when is it self-construction and when is it versus ableism, which that's a harsh word. I'm so sorry to say that, but I didn't know what else to say. But it's, in my personal experiences in some Montessori classrooms, even as myself as a guide, watching a child kind of fall through the cracks, based on, hey, they need to self-construct. Well, I could see that they needed more like support. So there's like that division of like, how do we help this child? They need more help, but they're supposed to self-construct. To this day, the reason I did behavior science is because I would rather help the child than let them fail or fall. So let's see. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me talk about this picture. At the bottom, you see these 4 books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. This is Michelle Lane, who is my awesome mentor, and she's awesome. I'll call her my friend. She's my friend. She does Montessori and ABA. She created this approach, these books, and I don't have one in front of me. It's in the other room. But what she did was take the Montessori lessons and kind of break them down piece by piece. So like trials, like we do in ABA. So I should have brought my materials. Yeah, so anyway, I don't want to get too in depth. I don't want it to be a Montessori lesson, but I just want it to be an introduction and a conversation that yes, there is a way to do both, to integrate both.
What
And
were the, what was the name of that?
yeah, let me turn it back. And I do have the this listed in the resource. It's
Okay.
called, I think her website is called, hold on, I wrote it down. I think it's just called, if you Google like Montessori ABA or Michelle Lane, that will pop up. Because she's very, yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I did put
Is
the
there
link
any
in the slide.
chance if you could just put it in the chat, please, so that
Yeah.
we can step into it? Thank you.
I will. It'll come up later in the slides. And so this one is also about intersectionalities. We're getting more into the detail. That's another thing. So I've created this slide, and the way that I teach is Montessori approach, because I take the broad concept and go narrow it down to the smaller detail. Whereas some traditional schooling takes a detail and they grow upon it so it becomes larger. But in Montessori, we take the broad concept and then kind of shape it down. So for example, now we're talking more detailed. So some labels you might run into in any classroom, anywhere in the world, are autism, ADHD, and giftedness. And then it talks about some more details about what each of those looks like, and you'll have access to all of this information. I tend to talk fast, and so I'll try to slow it down. Then one of the big problems in Montessori education, though, is a crisis that we're having. Neurodivergent families and children are either not being admitted into the Montessori schools, or they're being sent away due to lack of fit. Like, or if the staff, they say they can't handle it, like if they don't know how to work with someone with autism or Down syndrome or hearing impairment, or you name it, any kind of issue. Sometimes they will say, I'm sorry, we can't help your child, but we in behavior, we know how to do this. We know how to work with these children, and we know how to fade ourselves out. So I think this is where my opinions come in. I think if we were all to be able to help in this situation, we could reduce the issues so much. More families could be served. Let's see. So yeah, we do this. We see children as individuals, and we know and practice methods, how to individualize to their strengths and their motivations. And when they do, the other problem is sometimes when they are admitted to a school, which is awesome, they sometimes aren't being served. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, sometimes they're left to just sit in the corner and not be offered, what do you call it? Not be invited to lessons, or not being offered the same opportunities because they don't know how to reach them. So if teachers and staff and children don't have any like exposure to children on the autism spectrum, or for example ADHD or whatever, all those things that I mentioned, vision impairments, hearing impairments, whatever, any kind of developmental or hearing physical or developmental issues, the teachers will just think that it's foreign to them. They won't try to get to know it. But the way you get to know it, the way you get better at it, is to expose yourself to it, expose how to work with a child like that, and learn. So a lot of Montessori teachers are open to that, which is awesome, but some are not. So we have to work as behavior people. If we do go into a school, we have to learn how to work with them in a way that follows our task list and our code of ethics. And I'll get to that. That's coming up, I promise. And then also B.F. Skinner did write about this in The Technology of Teaching, and I'm going to read that. So it hurts me to read it because it's hard to hear as a Montessori teacher. So anyone else who's doing Montessori, this might be offensive to you, but it's true, and it hurts. Truth hurts. So outside specialists in Montessori are not always welcome, and that's really sad because the children are the ones who lose out. It doesn't hurt us, it hurts the children. And then there's also, if there were children who are admitted into the classroom and specialists are allowed in, there's a limit to how many adults can be present. So, for example, there's one classroom has one teacher, one assistant, and if there's a specialist or something, they have to be, that's too many. Like they don't usually allow that. That's too many adults. The ratio is off. They want to have the adults be very like invisible, like not disruptive at all. And so we'll talk more about that later. So if you are a behaviorist working in a Montessori classroom, you have to be like quiet, like silent almost, and then like don't be disruptive at all. But I'll get more into that later. So that's the cultural divide, number 5. So even if we are allowed in there, we have to overcome this cultural divide. So in Verbal Behavior, the book, and The Technology of Teaching, those are both books from behavior, the world of behavior. So he talks about, or he wrote about the conditions limiting the instruction of the listener. So in behavior, we divide everything up very detailed. So like there's verbal behavior and there's speaker behavior, listener behavior, like there's all types of interactions going on. And so he was discussing in this book about how slowing down and simplifying the language, it just, when I was reading through that, it just reminded me so much of Montessori. Like, yeah, of course we slow down because the child has difficulty processing or the words get jumbled up. So they want to slow it down. Just like this recording, if someone's watching this recording, they're able to slow it down or pause and they can absorb more information. And in The Technology of Teaching, under this chapter called Why Teachers Fail, he wrote about the teacher as midwife. And this is the part that I said was kind of offensive for Montessori teachers, because he writes, no matter how attractive, interesting, and well-structured material may be, the discouraging fact is that it often is not learned. Hold on, let me move this square. Rather than continue to ask why, many educational theorists have concluded that the teacher cannot really teach at all, but can only help the student learn. So that's Montessori. That makes so much sense. And what we do in Montessori is all about preparing the environment. So if you are a behavior person working in a school, the teacher, the guide, the Montessori teacher, has worked very, very hard to curate the classroom in such a way that is supposed to appeal to the children. It's supposed to be like the materials on the shelf is in an order, a specific order to appeal to the children. And so this was kind of, they came up with this kind of scientifically, but it's always under scientific scrutiny of observation. So I'll get into that later. That's why we can't just go in and touch things in a Montessori classroom. They get really mad, offended at that. So the next quote, he says, although the soul has perhaps not always known truth, nor ever been confronted with it in a half-forgotten experience, it may still seek it. If the student can be taught to learn from the world of things, nothing else will ever have to be taught. This is the method of discovery. It is designed to absolve the teacher of a sense of failure by making instruction unnecessary. The teacher arranges the environment in which discovery is to take place. He suggests lines of inquiry, and he keeps the student within bounds. The important thing is that he should tell him nothing. And so that, I mean, that's out of context because he goes on later to write about some other stuff. But that was so painfully shocking and true because that's kind of pretty much what a lot of Montessori classrooms are like. The teacher, it's not all of them, but we as behavioral people can look and watch if a teacher is accidentally doing the thing where they said, well, I did everything, I arranged my classroom, and the child is still not interested or not learning, that's where we can pop in. And where it says the important thing is that he should tell him nothing, that's where we won't do that. We have to invite them and incite them about some kind of work. And that is what they talk about in Montessori too. That's also not in Montessori. They don't just say ignore the child. That's where there needs to be more training for Montessori people who need to learn how to invest their effort into the child. That's a whole separate conversation. But for us as behavior people, that's one thing that we're good at. We find the child's motivation and we try to inspire them. So let's see. Oops. So the solution, hold on. I think I mixed up. I might have, oh yeah, no, I did that right. There, I told you about the problem. Okay, so there are over 100 million. That doesn't make sense. That's a lot of people. That's got to be wrong. I think I must have the wrong number. That's way too many. Montessori teachers worldwide. Each and every Montessori teacher has at least one assistant. That's true. And Montessori education was specifically designed for all learners, especially for our neurodivergent and special needs children. So back when she started in Rome, her very first school was over 50 children, and they were in the what is it called? Psychological institution for they didn't use very kind language back then, but it was just basically children who couldn't be educated. And back then they didn't think they could be educated. So now we have things like self-contained classrooms, and we don't worry about that. We do try to educate children. We don't just leave them in a room with nothing. So, but that was her job. They just said, hey, take care of these kids because what are we going to do with them? That basically just kind of like, it was not a very kind situation back then, but what she did was discover they are educable, that you can put materials in front of them, hands-on materials, and no matter how low their cognitive level was at first, they can still be taught. And so with this materials from the people she studied with, the guy you saw in the video or in the movie, he was just an actor, but you know what I mean, Sagan and Itard, she created her materials and expanded upon it. And so nowadays, with the rates of autism and neurodivergence increasing pretty much daily almost, the opportunities to grow and how to support everyone's developmental needs with empathy and compassion are most importantly effective guidance. So there's so much research coming out on here, peer-reviewed experimental research from places like FTF and I have a lot of articles and research links for you all because the research is now pointing to this in all fields, not just behavior, but education, behavior, psychology, psychiatry even, and the like polyvagal, like nervous system and all that. Like all of this is coming together finally, and so this is a great place for resources. For ABA and Montessori classrooms, these are all the things I've witnessed with my own eyes. So there might be more, but in public schools, private schools, these were the things I noticed, not in my classroom, but from other teachers. So of course they start with observation, but the missing part is it's not ABA, right? ABA has to follow the 7 dimensions of behavior analysis, and I do have the link for that as well. That seminal article from Bearwolf and Risley in 1968, that's what defines applied behavior analysis. So these are all the pieces. This is pretty much all the task list. Well, not all, but maybe like half of it, right? Natural environment, incidental teaching, functions of behavior, data collection methods, different ones. There's, I have seen things now, I'm not suggesting we do all this, like for example, planned ignoring. I'm not a fan of that. And one of the things I love about today's ABA is our universal protocols is what, as you know, all of today's ABA, they don't recommend planned ignoring, not at all. That's a form of communication, whatever they're doing. And so we can teach communication and functional communication, but planned ignoring is not a good use of, we don't really recommend that anymore. But so what it would be cool if behavioral people could work within Montessori classrooms and I don't know, start to bring this together. Especially when it comes to punishment. There, a lot of times you'll hear Montessori people suggest they don't use rewards and punishment, but as a behavior professional, you can see that there are clearly reinforcement and punishment happening. So maybe a little bit of education on that part, but we have to be very careful how we educate, actually. Let me see the chat. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's what happens when people, I'm reading the chat way late, but yes, this is what happens. If you go to a Montessori school and they say, well, you can't go on a tour until you give your attendance deposit for like $100 or something. And they let you go on the tour, but then they notice your child has some either behavioral issues or some kind of developmental issue. And then they say, yes, you're not a good fit. And I just think that's wrong. That's very wrong. And even me as a teacher, as a guide, I would say, bring them to me. I will take them. I can do this. I'm trained. And even before I was trained, it didn't matter. Bring them to me. Don't exclude anyone. And that was okay. Sometimes they would, but a lot of times the school just has more power and they have a limit. They won't do that. They'll still say no. It's really sad. Okay, so 7 dimensions. So yes, our task analysis, for example, is the Montessori album write-ups. So like a lesson plan. So everywhere in the classroom that you work in, whether it's a primary classroom, whether it's a elementary classroom, the teacher there has a guide, a binder, or usually it's a binder, and they have a whole bunch of lessons in that binder. Every single lesson with all the instructions, the conceptually systematic, applied behavioral, that is all what we do. That's our work. So that's how we match. We can speak the same language because they have an album full of lessons and we have a task analysis that we're writing for children. How to wash hands, how to push in a chair, how to take the materials to and from the table. Like everything has, in Essential for Living, they call it the movement cycle. So what are the movements associated with this instruction? You know, first you do this, then you do this, then you place it here, and then you bring it here. Like everything has an instruction. And so secondly, our derived relations are the ubiquitous Montessori 3-period lessons. Like if you ever sit in on one of those or observe, they go really fast, faster than what we do in Montessori, because or in ABA, sorry, because in ABA we break it down to one skill at a time, not all at once. But even in Montessori, if they notice the child is not able to do all 3 at once, they break it up. They also break it up. So we match. That's a very similar parallel form of instruction. And in ABA, we call it social skills or life skills, but in Montessori, it's called either grace and courtesy for social skills or practical life lessons for like hand washing or toileting or hygiene or, right, practical life, cooking. So we have a lot in common, you guys. The culture translation and interpretation, we cannot give up. So if you as a behaviorist get sent away from a school, Montessori school, we have to just connect, repair the relationship back and forth, because the children need us, the families need us, and they need you and your willingness to collaborate, especially when it comes to child-led and assent-based, because we're so similar that we just can't give up on this. And so we'll talk here about what not to say, what to say instead. There's something called the Montessori Decalogue, which I forgot to attach that here. You can Google it, and I can try to find the chat or email it to you maybe. How to model walking and working with calm and ease. So like we wouldn't, for example, like barge into a room, like swing the door open and slam it shut and clomp around the classroom, right? If you go into a Montessori classroom and you're clomping around and you're just loud and your energy is really big, you will, that's not modeling grace and courtesy. And so that's where the deep breaths would happen, was where before you enter a room, take a few deep breaths, walk in slowly, gently, try to have the calm and ease. And I'm telling you, this gets harder and harder. Even I've become a little more frazzled, and like I can tell my calm is kind of wearing off sometimes. So we have to keep doing this daily throughout the day, not just once. Where to sit, the teacher will probably have a special place for observers to sit, or so when you first start working with a Montessori teacher, always check in with them. They are the boss of that classroom. So like as a behaviorist, behavior analyst, right? You're the boss. You have your treatment plan, you have all the instructions, you guide the thing, and you supervise your RBTs. The same thing is happening in the Montessori classroom. The guide is like the BCBA. They have one assistant, so it's kind of like they have one RBT that they are supervising. So we can't go in as a specialist. Even when I work in a Montessori classroom, I can't do anything. I just have to assess and then collaborate with the teacher, right? Even if I'm Montessori trained, I can't go to all the materials and just take them off the shelf. And they're the ones in control of their classroom. So, and never ever put your things on the shelf, right? Those are like a curated, how do you explain it? Like it's just very pristine. It's really set up, and we're modeling to the children how to keep things in order. And this is really hard to teach non-Montessori people. It's really hard. And then also voice volume, not to yell or shout or be loud and disruptive. That's hard too, because in ABA, especially clinics, we're just loud. We just tend to be loud. And then if you ever do have to model, notice how the guide does sometimes prompt, whether they know it or not. There is prompting in Montessori, but it's a least to most prompting usually. It's usually not errorless. So that's kind of something that flips on our head, because usually in clinics, we are taught the errorless learning. And in Montessori, it's usually they want the child to learn to correct themselves. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes, you notice a child really is making a mistake. So we have to like step in. So that's kind of the art of teaching Montessori and ABA, is the art of when to step in and when to back away and try to let them do it on their own. So for the International Behavior Analyst Organization, the ethical guidelines here, the promoting the client rights and dignity, this is exactly consistent with everything we're talking about. Certificates must treat clients with respect and maintain the dignity of clients at all times. This is exactly like the Montessori Decalogue, which I will get you that. And if you just want to Google it, Montessori Decalogue, it should come up. And clients' preferences should be included whenever possible. This has to do with their special interests, their motivations. All services should be rendered with compassion. That is number one. So for people who are out there anti-ABA saying that there's no compassion or empathy, this is number one. all services should be rendered with compassion. And this is one of the reasons I put the link here for FTF, is that's what we use here at Tier 3, is because that number one is compassionate behavior analysis. Number 1.2 is do no harm. So client protection, all interactions should be presented with care to protect clients from harm. So safety first. That's another reason we use FTF here, is we have client safety, dignity, and rapport. Certificates are responsible for delivering services in a way that lead to positive changes for the client and their environment, and to maximize their emotional well-being. So a lot of people to worry that behavior, I didn't add some of the views that Montessori have against us as behaviorists. There are a few, maybe if I get to a part 2, if anyone's interested in that, I can add that. I kind of felt like it was a little negative for this, but there are some views of behaviorism that are very old. We no longer use the old stuff. We've grown, 100 years since those were written. But this is one of them. Certificates are responsible for the positive changes, right? And Montessori, we say Montessori is an education for life. It's an aid to life. And those positive changes are something we're trying to do. When making decisions, the intervention should be most effective but least invasive. Again, super consistent with Montessori. I won't click on the link because I'm running out of time. The BACB ethical code is similar, just maintaining competence. This is one of the reasons I like to train Montessori teachers to do behavior, because I'm not qualified to teach Montessori. I'm not a Montessori trainer, right? You have to be a trainer to be that. So non-harassment, behavior analysts do not engage in behavior that is harassing or hostile toward others. So make sure when you go into the environment, you still act compassionately to the adults, even if we disagree, which we will probably disagree sometimes on things that we're seeing. We've had people come into our space, Montessori trained people come into our space and try to work with the children, and first thing they do is a punishment procedure, and I have to take them aside and say, I'm so sorry, but that was technically a punishment procedure in ABA. We can't do that. We can't start there. Let's try again. Let's try a different way that is more positive. And there's other things that they don't realize they're doing that are actually very harsh, that if we were to do as behaviorists are completely unethical. We can't do them. But we can't say this. 1.09, we can't say, hey, you just did a really unethical thing, like get out. That's not okay, because we'll just have to educate them a little bit. And they're usually open to a little bit of guidance, gently. Okay, so responsibility in practice. This is the part about non-behavioral services. Behavior analysts implement non-behavioral services with clients only if they've had the required education, formal training, and professional credentials. So I'm not a trainer, so I don't train Montessori. Even though I'm a Montessori teacher, I can train the assistants to be a Montessori assistant in my classroom, but I can't train anyone to be a teacher, right? I can't credential a teacher, but I can credential an RBT or even a BCBA within my Montessori space. Okay, adult behaviors. This is the good part. Okay. Oh, and we already talked about this, so I'm not as late as I thought. Sorry, but I did want to try to end faster. Always consult with the teacher to discuss the expectations of your professional relationship. The teacher is always in charge of the classroom. The goal is to work silently and invisibly. Oh yeah, never say good job. Sorry, that's a hard one. You just can't say good job in there. It's like a record scratching. Montessori teachers are not cool with social praise like that. Find other creative ways to give social praise, like a smile, a thumbs up, just saying yes, or specific praise like, hey, I noticed you pushed in your chair, and nice. You can even say nice. I say nice a lot, but quietly, not like shouting across the room. Like I had one teacher or administrator tell me this typical classroom thing is you have to shout across the room and notice the things you're doing right. In a regular public school classroom, you can say, hey, I see Joe is doing the thing and Emily is doing that thing, but we don't do that in a Montessori classroom. We don't just shout out and broadcast. It's hard. We're going to have to get used to it, but I know you can. Never recommend a token board, sadly, I'm sorry, or any sort of external reward because number one, they won't do it. And number two, it's going to discredit you, anything that you tell them after that. And they're just going to talk and talk, give them fodder to talk about how terrible we are as behavior people. But you do have power. You can use your FBAs. Watch for those ABC data and find the child-specific natural reinforcers, right? That could be potential reinforcers, which can be like, for example, extra outside time. They have motivators. They just can't be like external, like stickers. They don't like stickers or anything like that. Sorry, but I know you can do it. Again, get really creative with that because there's still a way to do it. Walk quietly, gracefully, in a calm, unhurried pace around things. The goal is to generate the calm, handle the materials only with permission. They're not manipulatives or toys. And then there's a developmental rating scale here from NCMPS. You can click on those links. Here's some more links if you're curious. And these are the links here that I'll send to you for those things earlier. References and resources. Beowulf and Risley here. I use a lot of nonlinear contingency analysis, but I didn't really get into that here because it's a lot more books, more stuff. The Jonathan Tarbox, that's a good one about kind extinction. It's a must read for behavior people. Gracias, thank you. Okay, sorry, I took too long. Go ahead, Q&A, let's hear it. Or throw tomatoes at me if I did bad.
You didn't do bad. It was a great sort of, it was a great, just kind of, sorry, this is Sarah. Just a nice introduction, I think, I'm a behavior analyst that I don't have personal experience with any of this. So this is a great introduction. So thank you.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, I think it was amazing. I was I am a behavior analyst myself as well, and I'm in Australia. I have been wanting to do something like that because I go to a lot of the childcare center, and I see all these kids are neglected, like, they are all just left alone. So I wanted to open up something like that, but I'm just not sure how to do it. Like, it's just so tricky. Yeah, so it's good to know all the history and all that, but will you be doing another session or something just to give a bit of heads up on, how you started, how everything looks like, and more of that as well?
Yes, I did receive, yes, and I did say I was going to do that. And I thought about showing you all around, and then I thought, oh, that's going to be like so specific to our space. And maybe I should learn more about I can tell you all this stuff I did, but it's not perfect at all. And we have some people, I think, from our team here. Hopefully, I think I see Rupali. And yay! Oh my gosh, Rupali. Oh, she's awesome. I don't know who else is from our team, but I'll have her say something if she wants. If you want to say something, Rupali. Oh, I don't know if you can. That's okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. I think you're muted. Hold on. Well,
I think you are on mute. We can't hear you.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. So, yeah, thank you so much, Miss Erin. It's a very good opportunity for me to learn about we are doing work together, yes. And I have learned so many things. I am as a RBT, I'm working with her. I'm not a Montessori trained, but she's giving us a training as a RBT and a Montessori setting, how we collaborate all both together. I'm doing my BCBA also, like last 2 semester left, and she's my supervisor. So yeah, we are collaborating all the ideas and it working. It's working like amazing. And I never saw it when I was working with another clinic as a RBT, fully like ABA. And this is also ABA. I'm not saying that, but there's a modification which I like about it. The small thing where we cannot use the visuals, but we can use some other things. Another thing is taking the materials. There's a task analysis and the discrete trial teaching when we do the RP as a RBT. So here is all the small DTT we do. We do on the work on the table and it's successfully. Like I'm so impressing the big change with one of our clients. I know there is no time, but I will quickly. One of our clients who was like, who loves its motivation is going to finding the bugs, and that's like completely opposite. He is the child always loves to stay outside and all. How that collaborate with the Montessori way to get his motivation as well as doing the work as a Montessori. That was one of the my best example I can share here. Like that's and the child, the student improves so well that I couldn't see that if it's a traditional ABA, it works. I don't think so it will work for him. But yeah, thank you so much. I keep wanted to work with Miss Erin.
Yeah, we have the most awesome team ever. So I do want to share with you. I do want to share what how to help you all if you're like you're in your own specific place. But I also didn't want it to be like a commercial, right? I didn't want to try to say, "Oh, we're so great, everyone, look at do what we did." Like that's, I mean, right? I
I
don't.
think you should. I think you
Yeah,
should. 'Cause
toot your own horn.
like, no, I would love to hear that, honestly, Erin, because this is amazing. Like, this is amazing, and I think everyone would. And you saw it in a Facebook. There were so many comments. Like everyone was
Mhm.
interested. And I know, like, if like everyone in this space, we want to do something like that. It's just not knowing where to start. So. I think I'm gonna have a lot of questions with for you, um, just because we have got a center that is again the rules and regulation in Australia is a bit different. However, I think the concept and everything's going to be the same. So already opened, like, it's in the process of opening a center. It's just having a system and not knowing who to hire. Like, do you hire RBT? Do you hire like ECT? Who do you hire? And like the training module and everything. It's just like, yeah, we haven't got to that point yet, but we do have a place where yeah, I want to just focus on having the child with disability. But again, at the same time, it's just how do we make sure that yeah, it's I don't know, it's just too many questions and not knowing where to start. I think, yeah, I think I'm gonna have a lot of questions for you.
Yes, absolutely. And some of my training cohort, where I'm in the Montessori therapy training cohort in it's happening in Germany, but some of our people are from Australia too. I know Australia is huge, so you don't all know each other. But yes, maybe I can connect with them and see what you have in your area too. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. So sorry, in terms of yeah, in terms of like staff wise, do you just hire RBTs or do you hire the ECTs and you like train both the Montessori model and RBT? Like, well, how do you train staff?
Yeah, that's the trickiest part, honestly. I don't know if anyone has to leave or if you want to stick around because I know it's already 8, but you're welcome to stick around. Yes. So the first time I just hired anyone off the street. Hey, who wants to learn this stuff? And I didn't even require RBT. I just said, "Hey, this is an option. You can learn the 40-hour RBT training if you like. And if you finish that and you like it, then maybe I'll do the competency assessment. And if you like the competency assessment, maybe you'll go sit for the exam." I didn't pressure any of that. But some of them, when I did require, they left. They were scared. They were like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to do this." And, okay, well, shoot. Okay, that's not going to work. What are we going to do? Maybe we can do, next time I hired teachers and then they came in and they were very strict. And I thought, oh, okay, the teachers are being so aversive. These children are being, they're having so many severe and challenging behaviors because these teachers are being very strict with them. So how do I have the teachers be less strict? So then I had everyone go do the today's ABA, how to be more calm, how to be more child-led, and learn my way. The my way game is what we call it. And so then the teachers were a little better, but then they said, when is it my turn to say my way? Oh no, you're not getting it. Sorry, we just can't. I know that's backwards, right? Because we're used to being the adult. You have to do what I say. But these children, like you said, or who said, I can't, now I'm starting to forget who said it. Maybe it was Sarah who said it. Sometimes children that we work with, that this won't, the traditional ABA just won't work. You can't do traditional stuff. So the today's ABA has been working with everybody that we've worked with, because the challenging behaviors, they disappear so quickly, and then you can hurry up and get to the skill. We want to teach skills. So
Yeah. Okay, so that's good to know. What I was thinking is maybe like, where you have like like the not the teacher, but the early childhood educators.
yeah.
Yes, they are not like as strict as like the formal teachers. So like hire them. And in Australia, the good thing is they don't have to be qualified as RBT. So everyone can, if we are like implementing FDF or what, like any kind of course, anyone can do it as long as they have a supervisor. So yeah, I think that would be like a combination of I think it's just a bit of tricky to get the foot around, and then once you have it, and I think it's going to be like trial and error kind of opportunity. So sorry, and one more question. So in terms of like curriculum, so you guys start with the FTF, like work on the challenging behavior and then work on skill training. When you do the skill training, like, do you follow a certain like curriculum, do a DT, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's where I try to do the Montessori lessons, the Montessori approach. That's the tricky part, because I'm the only one who's trained, but Rupali, for example, like if I tell them, if I kind of treat them a little bit like the assistant and say, hey, this is the lesson, watch me give the lesson, and this is what we're going for, then they pick it up and they can do it themselves. So that's kind of working very well. Rupali she's just doing it. She's doing amazing. And then we have Alyssa too. Alyssa, I don't think she's here, but she's our clinical director and Rupali's supervisor as well. And so they picked it up so quickly. If I just because I can't teach them everything there is to know about Montessori, but if I say, hey, here's a lesson and here's what it looks like and here's what it means behaviorally, like they already knew. Like the VB map, for example. Like Rupali was awesome because her and Alyssa went around and they looked at all the lessons we have in the classroom, and they were integrating it. What do you call it? Mapping it to the VB map. I guess I said map too many times. Like the skills. So now there were little stickers on the lessons, like what each thing was for what skill. So it's not so much a curriculum, like a step-by-step curriculum, but it's more like what this child can do. Like, for example, if the child doesn't like to write, so we have to avoid all the lessons that require writing, but we do know that they have to be able to spell words. Then we could use like another kind of way. The movable alphabet, for example, is just like the wooden letters, just other ways, or I guess magnetic letters. You guys could just, that the kids put on the refrigerator, or any other, so they don't have to write it, but they can still spell, for example. So it's not so much a curriculum, but it's more like following the child's strengths.
So what you're trying to say is so there's no like a organization-wide curriculum you follow. It's more because it's one-on-one, you go with child's lead. So you do the assessment, so like what we do as a behavior analyst. So you do the assessment, you make a curriculum from them, and then you follow them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because that's how it is in Montessori. So technically, that's the part that's difficult because technically I'm following my Montessori curriculum, but
Yeah.
nobody else here knows what that is. No, I
Yeah.
might look like I'm doing some random stuff, but in my
Yeah.
mind, when I'm watching a child, my brain is going through all of my Montessori albums, my training, like a shelf full of like 9 or 10 albums. And so I'm thinking through of all the ways to integrate the lesson into that moment. And so I can't like always teach everybody everything all at once. But if I say, hey, let's try this, and then they are so awesome because they just do it. And like, for example, Rupali, I'll show you something. In Montessori, for example, the curriculum does say for elementary, like, but there's, okay, so let me think of 3-part cards. So this is primary work for 3 to 6 year olds, but we use it in elementary too. Somebody has a special interest, for example, bugs. So we went online and we took a picture. I only did it one time, but Rupali just flew, she went with it. So we take a picture of the bugs and there's a photo of the bug and then the name of the bug. And so then they have to learn, they match it and they learn the name and the bug. So I did this once and then and so I only started with one, and you can just Google this, ladybugs. And so, and then we cut out the picture of the ladybugs, and then they can match them to the front. And normally it wouldn't be all at once like this. This is visually overwhelming, but the person we used could handle it. It was okay for him. So you match the picture, and then also you can match the word, which I don't want to do now, but you could have pink spotted lady beetle, for example. So that's a lesson in Montessori. But she was awesome because she just went and made her own, which in Montessori you don't only the teacher can give the lesson. But I technically gave the lesson, so the assistant can continue to support the child. But if you were to go into a Montessori classroom and just try to give a random lesson, they would bristle. They would be so mad. They would not like that. They would feel threatened.
So what about the Michelle Lane, the one you showed it in a quote, like a resource. So I mean, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but does she have like a curriculum where we have like, yeah, is that a good resource to start with? What do you suggest?
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, that's a really good starting point.
I
She
cannot seem to find it. Like if you have a link, can you send it to
Yeah,
me,
let me
please?
go back. Yeah, and I'm gonna send you all this. It's back here. Sorry, I don't want to make you guys dizzy. Um,
Mm.
she does, it might be hard to get it to you in Australia. Oh, where is the link? I know. I put it back on this part. So Michelle Lane, there it is. Montessori ABA, books and resources.
Okay, so
I'll
montessoriautism.com.
put
Okay.
it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great. So
Um,
this curriculum, it's pretty much have the so have the curriculum that's that's integration of both Montessori curriculum and the ABA. Okay. Yep, that sounds good.
And we do teach, she does, I co-teach with her at this place, where is it? Montessori Medical Partnership for Inclusion. So this place, she does have a course. I'm a course assistant with all of these classes. I work here a lot. I don't get paid. I don't think I should say that. But I do it because I do get paid for part of it, but not all of it. It
Sure.
is my life. It is so my passion. I love it. This is the one she does. understanding interventions,
Would
more.
you be able to send me the link for this one as well, please? So sorry. I feel
Yeah,
like I'm asking too many questions.
no,
Because as I said, I am so much into this. I've got a space. It's just getting it into practice. And it's just, yeah, I've been working so hard to make sure that we get started. So do you have anyone, I know you do one-on-one, but do you know anyone who does more into a group setting? Because yeah, I don't know how that, because with one-on-one I don't think as in terms of like funding wise, I don't think they will get funded for it. And I know it's not like, even with ABA in Australia, it's a bit different because we don't have like 40 hours and 8 hours long like funding. We don't have any of that. So we got a very limited funding, and we need to, and I'm sure, like, and 200% sure that no one gets funded one-to-one for like, 8-hour program or 8-hour session. So do you know anyone who does more of a group? And depending upon, yeah, so maybe we can have, yeah, is there anyone like who does the group?
I don't know who does the group. Yeah, the funding is really difficult. That's the hardest part, even for us, because that's why I started out trying to do a group, Montessori, typical classroom, like maybe
Yep.
3 children, 1 adult, and have low
Yep.
ratio. But then
Yep.
all of a sudden, even 3 per adult was too much. And I thought, okay, we have to quickly switch to insurance. So the funding part is more difficult, because you have to follow the needs of the child, and some children really do need one-on-one. Um,
Yeah.
but now, after these children have been here for so long, having the trained assistant who is an RBT, very knowledgeable, then the adult in a small space. Right now, our space is a little too big. It's tiny, but they can go everywhere. So if we had like a more confined space, a classroom with the trained adults, we could have a smaller group. So depending on the design of your space, you could
Yep.
have a group with 1 or 2 trained adults.
Yep. Okay. So what you're saying is maybe like have a lower ratio. So at the moment, our ratio is 1 adult to, I mean, depending on the age group. So I am mostly looking at 3 to 5, and then 3 to 5 space. I think that's where they need a lot of support. So 3 to 5, or even 6, like if there's some child needs to do a repeat, repeat class. So 3 to 5, 6. I am the normal ratio. The normal childcare ratio is 1 to 10 kids.
Oh, wow.
Um, and yeah, I know that's a lot. So, and like until we figure out the funding wise, what I'm thinking is maybe start with that and depend upon how the clients need. If then maybe look into some other way. But again, there's no other like resources which can fund the money, like, and as an organization we need to get paid, like you need to pay the staff and everything. So yeah, I think that's where it's a bit tricky. But do you guys just use like the insurance like for the ABA part, not the childcare subsidy?
Yeah, we don't have a childcare subsidy. I was looking into getting childcare licensing, and I don't want to bore everybody and get so detailed. That has been very, very tricky because the space, the zoning, the
Yes.
space have to be so perfect for them. And then the therapy clinic, we have to get also get what do you call it, approved, hold on, inspection. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word inspection. We have to get therapy inspection, and that's the same kind of a thing, but they're looking for different things, more like confidentiality, and they do look for safety issues as well. But the childcare licensing, they don't like the Montessori ratio at all. They don't like too many children, and that's been
Yeah.
very challenging.
I know. I think yeah, so that's what I am waiting on as well. I've got a space, I've got everything. I am waiting for my license. I applied for it. It's been almost a year now. And this was the only hindrance. And I'm really hoping, like, they did get in touch with me last week. So I'm really hoping I should get a license this week. And I'm looking at like an alternative option, like in case, and without childcare subsidy, I don't think we would be able to operate, because because there's no way they fund it. But what your session looks like? So is it like 9 to 3, like longer session, and child attends the whole like 9 to 3? How
We
does
don't
that work?
We only have we are only open 9 to 3, but we
Yeah,
also have 9 to 12. We do Montessori work blocks, work cycles. They call them
yeah,
work sessions. So 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is the morning, and then 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. is the afternoon. So really
yeah,
2 sessions per day,
yeah,
and we kind of keep both of them a little bit the same. We want to try to get the children a large window of focus time, of uninterrupted
yeah,
time where they can just focus on whatever they want, pretty much. We try to give them a lesson, and some children have more energy, more active, and we have to kind of work initially when they first start. They do have to be one-on-one pretty much until we find what their interest is. Now, after a
yeah,
week or two, we find what grabs their attention, grabs their concentration, and then it's calm. Then whatever that is, they can do that thing over here on this side of the room, and then we can go to the other child over here and find theirs. And then all of a sudden, in 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, you're like, what do I do? I'm just standing here. I'm not even
oh,
doing
yeah.
anything. It's like so quiet. Everybody's working. It's like awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, I love to see all that happening. Oh my gosh, I'm so sad I'm in Australia. So with the location, so you what you're saying, and when you onboard, do you like take for one class, do you take one child at a time, get that, or how does that work?
Well, at first I started all at once. I said, okay, here's the first day of school. Let's all come in, and it's going to be madness because
Yeah.
being a teacher, I'm like used to the first week of school, the first month of school being madness. And so, um, but it was like, I think it stressed out the adults a lot. And so maybe
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to them anymore. Because
Yeah.
I know that it's gonna get better, but not everybody knows it's gonna get better.
Yeah, yeah, true. No, I can understand. Oh my gosh. And are you guys the only like ABA based Montessori in that area, or?
No, Isabel is here. She does inclusion in her Montessori, and her school is way better. My space is not. Mine is just therapy. Hers is like a
Yeah.
school, but I don't know if I should have called you out. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Isabel. But yeah, we're growing this in the area. We're
Okay.
growing this so more people do it. Literally, honestly, people could do this everywhere, and we would still not have enough schools, resources. These
Yeah.
children need it.
So you do from age 6 to 12. Is that what you said?
Yeah, more kind of
And-
like 5 years old, all the way to 12. Yeah.
Okay, and so they don't go to like a regular school, they come to your school.
Sometimes they do go to a regular school in the morning, and then we can sign their therapy note saying they were in here for a session because they might need a note for school. But
Yeah.
honestly, after a while, they either don't go to school. It's either like homeschool,
Yeah.
or some of them do want to just come here full time.
Yeah.
They do thrive. I mean, they end up thriving. They speak more.
Yeah.
They're more interested in things. So I don't pressure people to come here more, but families tend to want to stick around, and they don't
Yeah.
want to leave sometimes. So.
Of course. And I think the family wants the best for the child, and wherever it works. I think, yeah. And that's the one thing, like in Australia, I haven't seen anyone who has done this. So I don't know how we're gonna market. I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's just like a really tricky situation. But yeah, I'm super duper excited. As I said, I've got place. It's just putting in a system. Yeah, like the curriculum and everything. It's just, yeah, it's just a bit of nerve-wracking, but yeah, I think, yeah, we should be fine.
Yeah, well, if you just have to choose a curriculum anywhere, anything should work because behaviorally, right, any curriculum would work because how they behave with a curriculum is what we could measure. You could measure anything, that their interaction with each other, with the
Mm.
teacher, with the the curriculum, because we're not doing grades. I guess you're doing grades. In Montessori, we don't do grades. So it's very consistent with insurance because we don't give grades and we don't care if they're getting the answer right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
how are they approaching this non-preferred activity? Whereas
Yeah.
normally they see a pencil and they throw it across the room because they hate to write. Whereas
Yeah.
now they can sit down at the table and they can hold a pencil and they can make some marks on the paper.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that's a
Yeah,
behavior.
and that's the progress you want to see. Like, that's why I don't like traditional childcare model, because the kids are left alone. They they grade 0 or whatever when they don't know how to do the numbers and say numbers, and have non-verbal child and all that, and it's not much happening. So that sounds good. I think that I've got a lot of knowledge around how to get started and all that. I think I'm still gonna have a mix where I can regular kids if they come in, great, and then slowly, and once I have a system, because I don't want to overwhelm myself and the whole staff if I have the center I am looking at is a 40 place, and I don't want all 40 kids to be or with special needs where I don't have the staff, so I might need to slowly transition and then see what works, and then go from there.
That's cool. I'm excited for you. Yes, keep it.
Yeah,
I want to hear all about it. And there's a
sure.
network. So many people are doing this, so we need to just have a network of everyone.
Yeah,
Maybe.
and I guess, as I said, I don't have anyone who's been doing it. So if you know anyone who who's doing it, especially in a childcare center, something like that, please let me know. I'm happy to reach out to them and get in touch with them, because as I said, no one has done in Australia, and I definitely want to implement. In saying that, if you are the only one, I'm like, yeah, you don't have anywhere to look into it. So if you have anyone who's done it, please let me know, and then I'll try get in touch with them as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know what part of Australia the people are that I know, but I do know people in other areas, like one in India, one in I think Mexico, and in I don't remember where. I I think Ghana. Is that where you're doing yours? So hold on, let me see. I don't want to look it up right now. There's and then there's one in what's that other place called? Hold on. Hold on. Where is that place called? Scotland, yes. But not, I don't know what part of Australia. So there's a lot of inclusion, a lot of people open to
Is there a
behavior.
group?
Just in my Montessori therapy group or just people I've met from around.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought it was like some sort of group or something. Okay, sure. Okay. So that's good to know. And again, I think it's gonna be learn as you go process. But no problem. I think I think I should be okay. It makes me a bit more settled and more confident, after talking to you. So I'll be texting you a lot as I go. But I've learned a lot, and thank you so much. Amazing. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all for showing up. See you later. Have a
Thank you
great
so much for your time.
bye.
Bye.